since you're the highest ranking person,
All righty.
you and Philip Cole, but Philip has always distanced himself from the BLC, but you are the program committee chair and member of the national board of the U.S. section of Will. So
All right.
can you run this meeting?
Certainly. Welcome. Happy Sunday, everyone. Let's do a check-in. We can just do name, branch, and one good thing, which is an excellent way to do it. Let's start with Adrian checking in. Adrian, can you unmute and give us your name, branch, and one good thing?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I'm with the Metro Atlanta branch, and the one good thing is I'm headed to one of my son's birthday parties right now. So I'll be out for a few minutes. That's it.
Thank you. Drive safely, and I hope you enjoy the birthday party. CC?
Good afternoon, CC Anderson, Atlanta Metro Branch, and it's a new day and a new way.
All right. Thank you. Let's hear from Philip and then Teresa. Oh, Philip is gone. Wow. Missed that. Okay, Teresa.
Well, Teresa Alameen, branch organizer, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch in Columbus, Georgia. And my good thing that was a bad thing, I got COVID-19 from being in a room at an Aloft Marriott Bonvoy Hotel at 7895 North Point Parkway in Alpharetta, Georgia on February 18th. I hired Morgan and Morgan, the biggest personal injury law firm in the world, I think. They agreed to take my case. I'm suing the Marriott Corporation. I told them people at Morgan and Morgan, don't be dragging this out. Everybody at the hotel admits that they put me in a room with filthy, stinky sheets on the bed. There is no dispute about it. I will get my reparations from the Marriott Corporation. No doubt about it. It's just a matter of how much and exactly when I get the check. So thank you, George. I can't see your agenda, if that's an agenda.
It is, but that's no problem.
I'm using my phone, George.
Yes, ma'am.
So
I'm going to do my check-in, and then we can go to the BOPA.
Well, first, George, if you could read what the agenda is.
Okay.
After you do your check-in, so we can make sure that everything is on it that we need to discuss.
Okay. So I'm George at the Southern Piedmont branch in North Carolina. And my good thing is a result of an intern that I'm working with my North Carolina Peace Action job. She is a graduate student in the Peace and Studies Department at UNCG. And based on a assignment, doesn't feel like the right word, but based on the work that we've been doing together on Zoom meetings, she reviewed African Americans Against the Bomb by Vincent Invego. I'm not getting his last name right. She wrote an article that was now published in the UNC Peace and Studies program, and it's online. So as a result of me assigning a piece, she wrote this excellent review connecting African American history, Hiroshima, the Ukraine, all of it with Black folks being against war and against nuclear weapons. It was very great. Okay, so our agenda: check-in, BOPA review, BLC 3-year strategy chart, BLC EDAC listserv, announcements, next meeting on March 26th, and who's the facilitator. Anything to add? If you're talking, Teresa, you're muted.
Yeah, George, there you go, fucking up again. We need to talk about the proposal for a branch to take on the triannual in 2024. And the fact that at the March National Board meeting, it will be discussed who the branches are that have applied.
And there's a March due date.
It's March 15th is the deadline. You just so shabby about getting the facts.
Well, it's on the agenda. Anything stopping us from proceeding?
Don't be interrupting me, George. After we talk about the BLC strategy chart, we should talk about the March 15th deadline for Metro Atlanta, Fannie Lou Hamer, or Southern Piedmont, or some other branch putting in a bid. And as part of that, we have to talk about the fact that we have a mini grant application in for the southern branches to take a look at Metro Atlanta. And since we have two people here from Metro Atlanta, quite frankly, I don't see Metro Atlanta with Shantae McLaughlin claiming to be the branch organizer. And she has removed herself from a BLC. So I don't see that Shantae McLaughlin is going to do a doggone thing. She hasn't done anything in 2 years. And Adrian and CC have not done anything to move the Metro Atlanta branch forward. So we should be able to talk about that in some detail. I just want to be clear what the agenda item is that I'm putting there. And I expect us to have at least 15 or 20 minutes to try to figure out, is Metro Atlanta gonna do anything? I'm done.
Is it possible to move that agenda item up? Because Adrian said he can only be with us for a short time.
Well, let Adrian speak for himself.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, George. I will address that now. I have spoken with Shantae, and we have discussed doing it. So I'm committed to do it. If that's what, if Metro Atlanta is chosen. So that's what I'm planning to do. And I know Shantae agrees to do that. But I mean, I joined the board and I decided that I was going to help any way I could. But I gotta tell you, I'm really disappointed, Teresa, with the way you treat people and this back and forth and the emails and the way you treat George. So I don't know if I even want to stay on this board, to tell you the truth. The other thing I'll say is, hold on. The other thing I'll say is I did finish the brochure and I sent it to Diane in Spanish. So, you know, I want to be part and help and be help with the Latino stuff, but I really have a problem with the way you treat people, Teresa.
you can respond.
Well, Adrian, I come from a Black radical tradition where women speak up, and people who are slackers and who don't do what they say they're going to do, I tell them to their faces. And I am the founder of the Southern Anti-Racism Network. And it is an all-volunteer organization. You've been on the board for quite some time. You have been on the admin committee of the board. This is who I am. I have had lots of conversations with George, woman to woman, and you're acting in some kind of patriarchal way. I say step back. And if you feel that you want to leave the board, I'm so sorry, but it's entirely up to you. End of story.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
George,
I think it's not.
George,
I don't think it's fair to say I'm acting a patriarchal way. I think that's a cop out. Whenever a man says something that's, challenging you. So I can't validate that, Teresa.
Adrian, do you have anything to share about the Metro Atlanta branch having a bid in by March 15th to host the Congress there? Anything about the mini grant to say?
Well, I mean, we did put the application in.
Yes.
Then I sent that in. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to get off this call, and I will consider resigning from the board, and I'll let you know my decision later.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, do you want to start with the BOPA, Teresa, on the agenda, or what's your desire?
George, you're running the meeting. I'm perfectly fine. We need to have further discussion about the bids because I really don't think Atlanta will be able to rise to the occasion. So we could talk about other possible bids, but we could do that after we review the strategy chart.
Okay. So I'm going to change and put the BOPA up briefly. I don't think we have anything to add to that. Here we go. So the main piece on our BOPA, our basis of political agreement, are our areas of work. We make decisions by consensus. We have a monthly meeting. This is that meeting. And we have these areas of consensus. One is in red, the most recent one, because it hasn't been approved by consensus by a significant number of branches. So we have reparations, free all political prisoners, criminal justice reform, end mass incarceration, ending voter suppression, free Palestine solidarity, anti-racist transformation of WILF US, solidarity with other oppressed people of color, universal health care for all, Medicare for all, immigration justice, AFRICOM out of Africa, and affordable housing, ending gentrification. That's the one that we haven't gotten consensus on because we lacked a number of branches on the call last month. And now this month, there's only 3 branches here. So that's our BOPA. Any comment?
Well, yeah, George, because this is a very informal group and caucus. And because there are so few Black members of the U.S. section of WILF who are willing to be a part of this Black Liberation Caucus, on a regular basis. It's just so few people. And I don't know, Adrian may try to say that somehow it's my fault. I say BS. We have never had more than the southern branches, really, to be a part of this. And I initiated the southern branches starting 2 years ago with the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, then the Metro Atlanta branch, and then working with you, George, and Rita, and others on the Triad branch, and then the Southern Piedmont branch. And all of those branches are weak, except for the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, which is here in Columbus, Georgia, and has a significant base, a real steering committee, and a treasurer. We are a real branch. Now, I say that the Fannie Lou Hamer branch is a driving force behind the Black Liberation Caucus. That's just a fact which should not be in dispute. And I'm glad this is being recorded so it can be shared with everyone. So what I would say is that the affordable housing issue as part of the BOPA is already operational because the Fannie Lou Hamer branch is leading the Housing Justice Subcommittee of the Advancing Human Rights Committee. So out of the 4 operating subcommittees of the Advancing Human Rights, the UN Decade / reparations, ending mass incarceration and the death penalty, and housing justice. Those 3 subcommittees are led by the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, and me in my role as organizer. Quite a few people in other branches attend meetings of those subcommittees. I'm particularly impressed with how the Vermont Burlington branch is totally engaged in the ending mass incarceration and the death penalty, as well as the UN Decade. We have Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor branch involved with the UN Decade. So I do the work. I do the work. And Adrian been dragging around with that Spanish brochure for literally months. That translation, me constantly running behind him. I know who does the work and who doesn't do the work. And for me, I say combat liberalism. I will not be liberal with people who are in the movement when we are fighting for our liberation. And they want to talk about how I talk to people or how I treat people. George, you know how much I love you, but you do know you make a lot of mistakes, George. Mm-hmm. And the Southern Anti-Racism Network was paying you. And I am the primary fundraiser. I raised thousands of dollars for SARN. And I am just tired. I'm really tired. I am not going to be feeling used as if I got a bunch of charitable cases. And that's just the facts. And so, in terms of what is real and not real on the BOPA, all of the stuff that's on the BOPA, that where real work is being done, is coming out of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch. That's just a fact. And it's tied to the Advancing Human Rights Committee, of which you, as program committee chair, are over. But I know what I'm doing in the way of work. So the BOPA is what it is because the work is being done. There's no need for some pretend getting approval. There's no need to pretend the need for approval when the work is already being done, because I'm committed to the work. And as long as I'm connected with the Black Liberation Caucus, and I will be until it's dissolved, because I started it. I gave it the name Black Liberation Caucus. So let's just get these facts out there to be really, really clear about where we are. Over.
Okay, I'm going to put up the strategy chart. This period we're in is July 2022 to June 2023. Our primary goals, 150 new members from 5 regions: Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, Northwest, Midwest. Reparation ordinances in 10 branch cities. 10 branches participate in anti-racism transformation and beginning the BLC EDAC dialogue series. Strategic objectives during this period: attend International Wealth Congress in July and present Equity and Inclusion Workshop. That was July 2022. EDAC was established in July 2022. In the Northeast, the representatives are Susan Lloyd and Susan Smith and Robin Lloyd. In the Southeast, it's Samantha Turner. In the Northwest, it's Mary Hilton. There's not someone on the Midwest, although 2 people's names aren't on here. And I will remedy that. You're talking, Teresa, but you're muted. Mary Foster is not here.
George, the person in the Northwest with the Humboldt branch, her first name is Sue.
I didn't say Sue.
No, I think you said Mary.
I was thinking about Mary Foster, who isn't here, and I have to add her. But yes, Sue Hilton, they're in the Northwest. The other objective.
Well, yes. George, stop. The representative in the Southwest in Tucson is Gloria McMillan. She's with the EDAC. So the EDAC representatives are Sue Hilton in the Northwest, Gloria McMillan in the Southwest, Samantha Turner in the Southeast, Robin Lloyd in the Northeast, and I'm not sure, Susan Smith, who is with the Pittsburgh branch, I'm not sure she's still a part of EDAC. When I think back to who was on the conference call, I haven't heard from Susan Smith in some time. but I do know Sue Hilton, Gloria McMillan, Samantha Turner, and Robin Lloyd are committed. So let's just get that straight for the record.
Yes. There are a few other things. Yes.
Well, just in terms of the goals, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch has put out a reparations proposal, which we're giving ourselves until June of 2024 to pass. And it's $25 million a year for 5 years, which would give descendants of enslaved Africans and anybody else living in poverty, be they of European descent, indigenous, other people of color, it will cover everyone, not just descendants of enslaved Africans. And it is for the purpose of home ownership. $50,000 per family or person. So 50,000 times 500 is $25 million. On March the 9th, the Affordable Housing Alliance is hosting a strategy session in Columbus. And that is the proposal that will be debated over these months till we get to the point where we can actually put an ordinance forward where it will be voted on. So if anybody else has anything that they're doing to help us reach the goal of what was the goal, George?
10 branch cities pass resolution ordinance.
Is it reparations ordinance?
Yes, reparations ordinance. 10
Well,
branch cities.
well, I haven't heard that Southern Piedmont has anything on the table, nor Metro Atlanta.
That's
So
right.
I think that goal, I don't know. There's a lot going on in California and around San Francisco. See, it doesn't mean necessarily Black Liberation Caucus led branches. Because of EDAC, we're working across the color line. So people who come to the reparations meetings around the UN Decade reparations, San Jose, where Joan Goddard is, there's a possibility something can get passed there. In Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, I do know that I'm
Alan
spacing.
Haber.
Alan Haber is working on something there. So I think that Robin Lloyd may have something, possibly in Burlington. So at the next UN Decade meeting, we can decide who exactly has any work going on. But I can tell you, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch has something going on. So, George, if we could move the agenda to the next item. George, are you still there?
I'm just talking and muted. My apologies. The next thing is the 2024 conference and applying, doing a bid for that by March 15th, and the mini grant application. I know, CC, you didn't really say anything when Adrian was sharing a little bit about getting in the mini grant application and committing to having making a decision about Atlanta possibly putting in a bid, but that bid would have to be put in by March 15th. Anything you have to say about that, CC?
George, CC is not in touch with the process. So why you would put CC on the spot like that? CC, the mini grant application went in on February 15th or 14th. The U.S. section of will allows for branches to put in mini grant applications. All of the branches in the South came together and put in a mini grant application for $2,500. The application is for the Triangle Branch, Southern Piedmont, and if there's anything left of the Triad Branch, I haven't heard anything about it existing. But those 3 branches in North Carolina and the 2 branches in Georgia, Fannie Lou Hamer and Metro Atlanta, would come together, as it looks like now, in April. We had talked about coming together on the Malcolm X weekend, May 19th, but I was informed by Spelman that Spelman's graduation is May 15th, so everything will be shut down after graduation. So hopefully we will hear a response from the mini grant committee in March that we have the grant or we don't have the grant. And if we do have the grant, basically Atlanta is supposed to take the lead. Now, I'm from Atlanta, so I know Clark, Atlanta. I know the Spelman folks. And even though Spelman said there is no way that they can host an outside conference anywhere in the near future, including next year, that they will help us try to connect with Clark, Atlanta. But that's based on relationships. I have the relationships with Spelman. I'm willing to try to work with whoever in the Metro Atlanta branch to make it happen. But Shante and I clearly are not gonna do well together, because I told her she hasn't done anything in 2 years to build that branch. So y'all have to decide how you're going to make the bid a real bid. But I think the 2024 Triennial Congress should be in Atlanta. It is the best location anywhere in the United States for a Triennial Congress. There are numerous universities in the Atlanta area where they could provide housing and dining services, particularly Clark Atlanta, would be the primary. I've done several conferences at Clark Atlanta where people came in from around the country. And Clark Atlanta has a great cafeteria and they have great dormitory service. So I know that it's probably only gotten better. The last time I did a conference was in 2004. We used Spelman's Camille Cosby Center. Spelman says that the Woodruff Library on the Clark Atlanta campus would be a good venue to provide the same kind of conference space that Spelman provided 10 years ago. Well, actually more like 20 years ago. And so these are historic places in Atlanta where lots can happen in Atlanta, but it has to be a real branch that has people who can work on it. And I said I would stand back because I'm not in the Metro Atlanta branch. The truth of the matter is I did start the branch, and Shante and I were friendly, and I recruited Shante to Wilf. But in these 2 years, with all of the things in her life, she hasn't been able to get you, CC, Adrian, or any of those other people to do anything with the branch. That's a fact which is not in dispute. The Fannie Lou Hamer branch, we do have an airport here in Columbus, Georgia. However, it would be better if people flew into Atlanta and they could take a shuttle to Columbus. But we have a university here called Columbus State University, and I believe they have dorm rooms. I will check to see what's possible in terms of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch also putting together a bid, because I know everybody, the mayor and everybody would go all out to have a conference come here. But if they want to do it on the cheap, where people are at dormitories and not in hotels, that will make it harder, because the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Columbus, Georgia, would be wanting people to take hotel rooms. We still may be able to do the conference at the Columbus State University in the Cunningham Center. It is a very nice place to do a conference. We can have food catered there and everything. But in terms of sleeping rooms, I think people may end up mostly in hotels. But I'm willing to put in a bid from the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, because I know that we have the people here who could be a real host committee, because we will be working with other sororities who will support the effort, because it is the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. So all of the women's organizations in the community would pull together to support it. So the Fannie Lou Hamer branch will probably put in a bid. So I'll start working on it on Monday so I can find out the Cunningham Center, which is where I would propose that we do it. There are lots of breakout rooms. There's a big conference room, and the catering service for meetings, for people eating during the meetings is excellent. But it will cost you. And so I will put in a bid for Fannie Lou Hamer. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it with the members of the steering committee, particularly Danita, Destiny, and Deidre, and those of us who are on the steering committee. So, George, that's
The
all I have.
BLC EDAC listserv.
Well, George, you should be able to handle that item.
Well, I see it as an announcement that the BLC and EDAC, we met in January and we discussed the importance of the need of a discussion list that could be open to all of WILF members, but that is moderated and has anti-racism transformation topics and themes regularly shared to that list for the purpose of furthering the discussion. Sue Hilton of the EDAC, who knows about Rise Up, volunteered to construct the listserv. I'm one of the moderators. And then we met again last week. And if you remember last month, the BLC settled on a recommendation for the name of the listserv being women_peace_freedom at riseup.net. And that will be the name that was decided or shared with the EDAC on this week's meeting with the BLC and EDAC. Sue Hilton will change the name of the listserv she was constructing to be women_peace_freedom at riseup.net. There will be some guidelines for participation brought together that will be drafted by myself and Sue Hilton working together. We've already started on that. And it will be moderated with Sue and I being the initial moderators for 6 months. And then we'll go back and look for the next set of moderators on that discussion list. The discussion list is expected to be launched somewhere after March 15th because Sue is overwhelmed and she has another project going on and can't focus as much time on it until after March 15th. Is there more to add, Teresa?
Well, just to be clear, for the recording and for the record, members of the BLC, i.e. George and I, met with members of the European Descent Allies Caucus, which included Robin, Samantha, Gloria, Sue Hilton, the 6 of us, I believe that's all who were present at the meeting on February 23rd. And we did report back that at the January BLC meeting, we consensused over the name. Everybody agreed. So we had consensus among all of us who met on February 23rd about the process that George just outlined. So George and Sue are expected to come up with topics that will be at least weekly topics around the focus of the transformation, the anti-racism transformation of WILF. So in many ways, this listserv replaces the discussion listserv that was set up for all members, that was summarily, arbitrarily eliminated by Darian and members of the national board. So even though it was agreed to that we would have an all members listserv, arbitrarily the listserv was eliminated. Well, this is a listserv that is a bottom up, rank and file, members led listserv that will be operational in March. And we hope that quite a few people